Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight this is a private chat for a handful of viewers. We're going to do some mic testing and see what you guys think. The invitations have been sent. Let's just see if you guys show up. Hey, yes. Well, new mic setup. It's, I've got an isolation cube, I don't know, box, pillow thing around the mic. Should get rid of a lot of the echo that I've been running into lately, and I'm open to feedback. What do you think? Like, I can actually, the other thing is I'm playing with EQ too, because I sounded kind of tinny. Where's my EQ setup? Ooh, sounds much better, he says. Do I dare play with it, you think? I got the nose gate turned off because I keep finding that it cuts out the bottom of my voice. It's just too low. This one's kind of cool because you build this one to the room. You see when I'm not talking, there's a brown line. The computer has calculated that red line in order to filter out the brown line, and you can see when I'm talking, the yellow line, there's very little difference between it and the brown line, so I believe that means it's in the background noise, which is usually just like mostly hissing. That's 60 hertz mains voltage noise, but it's mostly filtered out, which is nice. The echo was not something I can filter out easily, and so that is done with the box, the pillow thing. Now, see, I get so confused by this because it says 1 viewer, but you were talking and it said 0 viewers. So I don't know if there's now 2 people in or what, but I'm just going to keep talking and working on the script for the next video. And if you guys have questions or you want to talk, anything to get me talking is appreciated. Because I just need to get some feedback on the mic setup. Because I've been doing audio by myself, and I go back and I listen to some of the streaming videos, and I'm wondering what the hell am I thinking. It sounds like I'm in a tunnel talking through a tin can on a string. No, not that one. Actually, we can close Reaper. No, I'm not going to keep that. Okay. And this one here. There we go. Anything? No? One guy? Hype mind? What do you think? I can't get over this little foam thing. I'll see if I can find you a picture of what it looks like. It's, mic isolation. I forget what it's called. Shield. It's just, this one here. Well, I got the blue one. It says pop filter, but it's so much more than a pop filter. The video? Yeah, the video's the next one in the Bring the Hurt series. It's all about, afflictions. And, which, more specifically, which afflictions are the most deadly to which creatures. Right? Because, like, some things, like the hammerhead has, like, 100% bleeding resistance, I think. And it is immune to stun. Defense. Yeah, bleeding resistant. Oh, in the claws. You hit it in the claws or in the face. The face is 90% bleeding resistant. So there's no point in using penetrating ammo on that one. Whereas if you've got something armored... See, that's what the video's for. Right? He goes, Hammerhead is immune to bleeding? Fuck. Yes, Hammerhead is not immune, but largely resistant, we'll say. Yeah, it doesn't really have any soft spots. You just basically gotta hit him in the butt on the way by, tail. And you gotta hit him with burn damage, so ideally, you can hit him with, actually, see, this is where I was going with the radiation sickness part. Radiation sickness builds burn damage, right? And it builds it quickly. And so if his tail is not resistant to burn, but it's resistant to pretty much everything else, then you apply something that applies burn damage. There's no bullets aside from the pulse laser. There's nothing that shoots burn, but except for depleted fuel, coil gun rounds and railgun shots and stuff like that. I don't like using nuclear railgun shells because the reload time is so long, and B, it's a very bad scene if you fire it too close and like your target winds up being too close to the ship. That's a bad scene. Like the nuclear explosions do a ton of radiation sickness, like enough to kill you in seconds. Actually, I think you get more. Hang on. Nuclear railgun shell. Let's see this one. So the nuclear shell, on its explosion, does 100 radiation sickness, and then has a 50 points per second radiation sickness for 10 seconds afterwards. But if you put a dirty bomb in it, in an empty railgun shell, not dirty, it has... Are they going to get rid of the dirty bomb? Is it that PC that it upset people? Because look at this, right? I'm going to duplicate this so we can compare the two. This is what the next video is all about, is comparing ammunitions. Right? So the first video talked about damage mechanics, how damage is calculated. Second video talks about afflictions and creatures and which ones are going to be resistant to what, which ones you want to hit them with. And then the third video is all about turrets and ammunition, which explains how to apply the damage that you want to apply to the various creatures. Okay, so nuclear shell on the explosion, which has a 15-meter radius, it does 100 radiation sickness, and then in a 10-meter radius, it does... And the craft mold with the devs were doing before. Interesting. I'll talk to the devs and see what they say. But look at this. That's inside of 10 meters, you get 50 points of radiation per second. Use a dirty bomb. Inside of 12 meters, you get 128 radiation per second. Right? If you're within 8 meters, it's 192. It's way more effective to use the dirty bomb than it is to use the nuclear shell. Yeah, well, actually, I would go if you had an equal amount of uranium and you went to make a dirty bomb versus a bomb, I would argue that you could create much more fallout with the bomb, but it's much more difficult to accomplish because you have to, like, the critical mass that's required to create the bomb is the tricky part. The dirty bomb is just a lot easier to make than a nuclear bomb. Like, explosive lenses are fascinating and completely dark art to me. I tried doing the math one time and it makes no sense. basically, if you put enough uranium or plutonium in the same area to trigger a nuclear, like a critical mass into an explosion, it starts expanding quickly. Naturally, it's exploding, but it carries that uranium with it, and so not all of the uranium or let's just say the fissile material, it carries that fissile material with it, and because it's now not in close proximity to each other, it does not get consumed and it does not create more explosion. So they use an explosive lens. Hang on, explosive lens. Yeah, it's funny because that's pretty much the only thing it's used for is nuclear bombs. So if you've ever seen a shaped charge, like on yes. Exactly. A uranium hand grenade, if you're thinking like the new fragmentation of grenades, tungsten, your tungsten hand grenades, right, is what they use. Little gold bits on the inside are tungsten. Oh, I want to go shopping for grenades. Yeah, everybody thinks these guys, those smooth ones, are not fragmentation, but they're just really, really, like these pineapple grenades went off into what, 32? 4 times 8, yeah, 32, maybe 40 pieces. Yeah, and each one of them was hot steel traveling like 4 times the speed of sound. Yeah, bad time for anybody in the way, but that's still 42 larger chunks that would be much easier to remove from a body than this one. But yes, you're exactly right. A dirty bomb is more like a uranium hand grenade, unlike a nuclear, which it compresses everything to create maximum efficiency. The weird thing is when you start getting into dampers, nuclear damper. So when you have fission happening in a reactor, you have the uranium ions or the fissile atoms. They break into pieces, and they usually break into 2 large pieces, and on average 2.5 neutrons. And those neutrons can go forward and cause more fissile events, but they're traveling about 12 million times faster than... Oh, hang on. Those demonite ones are kind of weird. A wrench that makes you hallucinate was kind of a odd mechanic. So anyways, the fissile neutrons that are coming off at such high speed from these atoms that are breaking apart need to be slowed down in order to create more explosion. In a nuclear reactor, we use it to create more heat, and we use the heat by absorbing the energy from those neutrons, and we do that with water. The neutron bumps into the water, and as it bumps, it imparts its energy as part of a collision. And water is ideal because if you think about it, like if you have a fast-moving object and you want to absorb some of its energy, right? Imagine I was thinking of a cue ball in billiards, right? If you want to absorb its energy and you hit it with something significantly heavier, think like throwing a cue ball at a dump truck, right? It's just going to bounce off the dump truck, and the dump truck's not going to absorb very much energy. Similarly, if you think a popcorn kernel, something super tiny, you throw the billiard ball is just going to roll over it, and it's not going to absorb very much energy. So the best way to impart some of that energy is to find a molecule that is as close to the size of the neutron as possible. And water molecules H2O are very small. Not as small as they could be if you're using helium or lithium or something, but small enough. But the damper is, what do they use as dampers? I think they use heavy water, deuterium, which just loves to gobble up neutron energy. And the larger the damper, the bigger the effect it has. So if you ever look at the largest nuclear bomb ever, the Tsar Bomba, which is a Russian design, it was originally, this thing was the size of a city bus. It was huge. And it wasn't the bomb that made it that huge. It was the fact that it had 2 dampers in it, 2 stages of dampers. And this thing was, I think it was 50 megatons. So equivalent to 50 billion, I think, megaton, no, kiloton, yeah, 50 million tons of TNT was how much this thing gave off. And they wanted to add another damper to this thing originally to make it 150 megatons projected. But they were worried that they would either cleave the mantle of like the Earth's crust. There's actually geologists in Russia that begged them not to use the third damper. Yeah, it was the school bus. Yeah, like look, there's a guy standing next to this thing. Yeah, there you go. And this thing, the explosion was so flippin' huge. First of all, the flight crew, they put a massive parachute in the back of this thing to give the flight crew the best chance of getting away alive. And even then, they didn't guarantee it. The mushroom cloud reached in, like, beyond our atmosphere, beyond what we would consider gaseous atmosphere. It went, like, it opened the atmosphere and vented to space, essentially. And the shock wave from this thing was so powerful that seismographs around the world registered the shockwave on its third pass around the planet. Like, if you've ever thrown a pebble into a still pond, the waves will go out. Yeah, it blew out windows like 150 miles away. It was terrifying. And like, if you threw a pebble into a pond and the waves go to the outside of the pond and then they reflect off the walls and come back into the middle, and then they pass each other and they go back out to the walls, and then they come back into the middle. So if you imagine how small and how lightweight these ripples are getting as they go 3 times across the pond, this thing was strong enough that it could register everywhere. Yeah. People complaining about noise, about a nuclear weapons test. Where's the other one? There's, I'll speed this one up. Nuclear, no, tests. So whoever put this together is a genius, because it's a very visceral, very effective way of communicating exactly how many nuclear weapons have been tested and who's been testing them. I'm going to mute this here because it's kind of annoying sound. So the first weapons test was, not Trinity. It was, Los Alamos in Nevada. It was, yeah, if you've seen this one, it's pretty crazy. I'll speed it up for you. And, that's not speed. Speed here. So, not many people realize that, like, they didn't do a ton of testing before they dropped the first bomb in Hiroshima. There was exactly one test, and they're like, okay, pack it up, put it on a plane, off it goes. Like, the second and third explosions ever were used on Japan, which is unfortunate. But anyways, if you accelerate this video and you look, and this shows everybody's testing, and they color-coded according to nation, but then you get to the end, and they show all the totals, and then they superimpose where everybody did their testing. And it's kind of horrifying that the United States decided to go into the middle of paradise in the Pacific Ocean and just level these islands so that they could test their bombs. Right? But here's what I find amazing. If you look at the United States, there's like a handful of places that they did these testing. And if you look at Russia, not only is it all over the map in Russia, it's a grid pattern. It's like evenly distributed across the country. And then the United States just confined all their testing to New Mexico. Yeah, horrifying. Yeah, Trinity, yeah, even if I get it, proof of concept. Have you heard the story of, Upshot Cannikin? Might have been Upshot Knothole. Upshot Knothole. If you haven't heard me tell this story, it's one of my favorites. No, that's not it. It must have been Cannikin. Yeah, Cannikin was the new underground nuclear test. Is Baker the one with the steel plate on the top? Because I think we're about to tell the same story. Yeah, the RDS-37, also known as the Tsar Bomba. That's this one. If Shot Baker is the one I'm thinking of. No, Baker was underwater. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I've heard about this one. Yeah, that was the one where it was way bigger than they thought it was going to be, and people almost died because they were so close taking video. And yeah, I remember hearing about this one. Yeah, the scientists were extremely lucky that they were as far away as they were, because it was the first time they'd done something special, and it was just so much more powerful. And you know what? We'll never know the true ecological effects of testing these flippin' radioactive things, but shot Canakin. Yeah, not just 3 times escape velocity. There's a video of the fastest moving things on the planet, and number 3, the fastest moving man-made object, is the steel plate from Shot Canakin, and it's doing 20,000 kilometers per second, and it's well beyond the sun's influence on the Pioneer? No, Voyager 2, just past the heliosphere, which is we orbit around the sun, and the sun has its own magnetic atmosphere, if you want to call it that, that we all float around in, and it reaches out, and as you can expect, it's a sun. That magnetic thing is yeah, there you go, 300 just times escape velocity. Because people say, oh no, it burned up in the atmosphere. It did not have time to absorb energy in the atmosphere. It was gone. And the guy did the math. He had a high-speed camera. There was the fastest camera that they had, and they sacrificed it. You gotta remember, these cameras that they were building, all these cameras that they were using, had they had wires leading to them. I don't know if they've ever. Hang on. Pacific Atoll testing setup. I think they show. There's a video of them leveling this island. Yeah, exactly. The highest highest frame rate we've ever had on a camera at the time, and it was on it for precisely 2 frames. No, where's the wiring? Anyways, they show these people setting up these nuclear tests, and they're laying these cables that are a foot across. Right, and it's partially shielded from the radiation, so the signal can go as clean as possible. But B, they have so many sensors that are taking recordings from these things, and they're all sacrificed in a single test. It's mind-blowing. Nuclear test proving grounds. I mute my something here. Mute site. There we go. So I'm not blowing out people's eardrums. Well, Hivemind, it looks like you're the only one showing up. You do approve of the new mic setup? Yeah. What was the other one I was showing somebody? It was the Chernobyl atmospheric. There you go. So there's a lot of nasty shit that comes out of a meltdown, but the 3 that you're most worried about are cesium 135, xenon 131, and I think it's iodine 111. Iodine is gaseous, and so you can breathe it, and it's nasty, and it gets into your bones. Xenon is gaseous. Iodine is liquid. Either way, cesium's the really one you got to worry about because it gets absorbed into the rain. And somebody did a really cool. Is this it? The atmospheric spread? Yeah, this one. So here's the thing. If you haven't seen them, cesium 137. If you haven't seen the miniseries, Chernobyl happened, and this reactor was ripped open. It was the worst possible situation. It's just belching radiation and smoke and nasty crap into the environment. And Ukraine said nothing for 2 days. And the only reason that they had to admit it was because there was a nuclear power plant in Norway and when you go to step into a nuclear power plant, there's a thing that you step into that measures the radiation on your body. You scan it with your tag, or it's associated with you. And then when you leave at the end of the day, it scans you again. And if you absorb too much radiation, you get 2 weeks paid vacation or whatever, depending on the country you're in. But it logs how much radiation you have. And if you have too much, it sends up a red flag so that you can be properly dealt with, medically or otherwise. Yeah. So basically, these plant workers were trying to go to work in Norway. Now, keep in mind, this is Norway, right? This part right here. Ukraine is way over here, okay? I think it was 1,700 kilometers away or something. These workers were trying to get into the plant to go to work. And the plant would not let them in because all of their personnel scanners were saying, this person has too much radiation. And so they started asking around. But here's the thing. I want you to watch this. It took them 2 days to admit what happened. Okay, so hang on. It's happened at what, 2:46 a.m.? Is that what happened? Okay. Why is that blue? Okay. So there we go. Explosion happens on the 4th. Right, Dad? 5th or 4th? April? No. Anyways. Yeah, 26 at 2 a.m. There we go. There's the site, okay? Now, that's 24 hours. So there's 48 hours. This is about the point that they're saying, oh, we fucked up. This thing's exploded and it's leaking and we don't really know what to do. Somebody please help. And even then, they didn't say somebody please help because this is Soviet Russia. They couldn't even dream that something would fail. There's records upon records. Yeah. Yeah, imagine the red zones. Yeah, and then look at this, right? It just hits the jet stream and it's a giant shit show, no matter what direction you look in. And this is becquerels per meter squared. That's not yet particle height. Meters. Hang on. Oh. Out of the way. Oh, so the heat map is how high up it is in the atmosphere. Right? So the higher it goes, the further it can travel. And it's just all over the place. And then you look at this map. This is radiation predictions. All right, it was just unbelievable. And if you haven't seen the whole series, Hive Mind, I highly recommend it. Yeah, what do they call it? The Cherenkov radiation, blue stuff. When high energy particles are traveling through media that's faster, and they're going faster than the speed of light through that media, they cause a blue glow. Like that. Before I go, Hive Mind, just because you seem well versed in the nuclear fission topic, have you seen the Helios fusion reactor? Because it is game changing. Yeah, did you see it? The Helion, I think is what they called it. Yeah. I was trying to explain this to my dad, and I equated it to the like an internal combustion engine versus a turbine engine, although that's technically also internal combustion engine, a reciprocating engine, right? So the ITER, the Tokamak, the synchro, what do they call it? Stellion, the weird Russian twisty one that looks like a cruller. It does. I'm not even joking. Reactor, what's it called? I think I'm remembering it wrong. No, that's it. It's still Ariane. I got it. Okay, so yeah, it's this weird, strange magnetic shape that's the Wendelstein Stellarator. That's the one. So yeah, it's this weird, yeah, Stellarator. it's this weird magnetic shape that makes it easier to contain the heat, but it also looks like a honey cooler. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But yeah, so those ones are continuous, right? They're creating this flow in a circular pattern, and the heat kind of comes off radially, and they have to contain all that. Whereas the Helion is this pulsing, it compresses things. It's literally almost like an opposed piston design, right? To like the equivalent of what do I call it? Opposed piston. Yeah. Let's see if I can find a simple animation for it. And what's cool is that the same thing that you're using to manage the reaction, to keep everything contained, is the same system that you use to draw. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Opposed piston. No, that's a terrible example. Opposed piston with one crank. There you go. All right, so you have this thing that's happening in the center, and you're harvesting energies out of it, as opposed to this thing's happening everywhere, and you're trying to harvest it everywhere. Because, the ITER reactor is one of the most massive projects we've ever created. We're talking magnetic sections 19 tons and 30 meters tall, being mounted with, sub-micron accuracy. Yeah, neutral confinement fusion, that's what they called it. Yeah. Alright. Well, that's it. It's way longer than I thought it was going to be. Monsieur Hive Mind, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I will take your approval of the mic setup as representative of the YouTube population. Yeah, so insane that 5 years ago, he says, it's so insane that 5 years ago AI and fusion seemed hundreds of years off, and yet Google's playing with quantum computers and really skirting the edges of AI more than I'm comfortable with. And they used to say fusion energy is always 5 years away from being 5 years away. And who knows? I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. The reaction designed in hell. Anyways, Hive Mind, thank you so much for joining. Any last comments about the audio setup?